it will help us understand the factional battles that are taking place in the SAPS, because it's quite clear that you have two sides that are fighting, and maybe it's not two, maybe it's not limited to two, but at the very least, you have two sides that are fighting. What are they fighting for? What is all of this about? Yes, on the one hand, we can say it is about ensuring that the police do their work, they investigate cases, they're held to the highest standard. That could be one of the things, but I'm not convinced that that is the sole reason behind what we're seeing unfold in front of us, rather. And hopefully the Matlanga Commission is going to bring us more clarity, which is why we need that commission to get its work underway and to get it and for that to happen as expeditiously as possible. Because the more time that passes, that nothing is done to investigate, to probe, it gives the opportunity to interfere with the evidence and with potential witnesses that could come and give evidence before that commission. So the longer the delays with that inquiry are, the greater the disservice to justice might be. And I truly hope that you can understand where I'm coming from with that. We have to ensure that in the end, justice is done, not only for the sake of the functioning of the SAPS, but for our sakes as South Africans who are under siege from criminals, who are dealing with crime on a day-to-day basis, and yet the people we are supposed to be running to can't help us because they're fighting with themselves? Or what exactly is the story? That's what we need answers to. So we're going to be keeping a close eye then on the North Gauteng High Court. A full bench is set to hear this matter. So it certainly gives you an indication of just how important and how serious an issue it is. Also, one of the things that we can bring on the talking point this morning is the reactions, the responses that we have seen to the immediate resignation of the ANC chairperson in Limpopo, Stan Matavata. You know, politics can be so unkind, hey? Politics can be so unkind. The statements from the structures of the ANC in the province, and I'm quoting from Sowetan this morning, they're effectively saying good riddance to Stan Matavata, that he won't be missed. In fact, if one is to read between the lines, it seems that he has done people a favor by actually resigning with immediate effect. Not much attention is being paid to the allegations that he has made about the lack of values in the party. If anything, the Youth League in the province is now asking him to retract that aspect of his resignation, saying it's unfounded and untrue. So by all intents and purposes, it doesn't seem that the resignation has had part of the effect, at least in as far as responses from the province are concerned. Because, of course, if you're leaving and you're leaving because you're unhappy with how things are being done, you expect that people are going to go out of their way to sit down and hear you out, want to see the evidence. But that's not what has happened. And one also wonders, why has Stan Matavata not taken this corruption that he has seen to the police as well? Because that, of course, would add a great deal of credibility to the allegations he's making. So we can have that conversation to 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial. It is your open line, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. So coming up on Citizens Corner today, I know it's going to be a burning issue. We're talking about vaping, but in particular, vaping in schools. We're talking about vaping in schools because when we have had this conversation previously, some of you have come on and shouted at me, Cathy, but this, but that. I'm okay. Let's have the debate, but just know that today we're focusing on schools, not in open public spaces. This is not me touching adults on their vaping studios. I'm talking about it in as far as it relates to minors who are not using it outside of school grounds. No, they are using it on school property. So that's going to be the conversation we have on Citizens Corner. We've got a number of guests that have been lined up to weigh in on the issue, but I know it's always a topical one. So you, of course, will also have the opportunity to have your say. And that's why this particular show is called Citizens Corner. And then the final issue we'll be looking at during the 11 o'clock hour is a rising advertising marketing trend by businesses. And this is with promotions, the buy now, pay later promotions. Have you noticed how many of them have been springing up lately? And by the way, this is not happening in isolation, right? We know the state of the economy. We know that many people don't have disposable income. And so how is industry responding to that? They're saying, no, you don't have to wait for it. No. You need this thing now. And we support the fact that you need it now. So you can buy it now. You can get it today. By the end of the day, it can be on your doorstep. And you can pay us later. But what is in the fine print of some of these deals? Do we know what exactly we are getting ourselves into, especially when we go for your buy now, pay later deals? Are we paying attention to the interest related to these installments and how they affect the future or our future income? And what happens in as far as the regulations when you begin to miss payments, when you can't keep up with the commitments that you have taken on. So that's the conversation we'll explore in the final hour of the show. And then we'll wrap it up with the G20 series with Lerato Tsebe. So that's what's on the menu today. Looking forward to being in your company, hopefully until midday, or that as far as you can, you'll try to tune in for the conversation. Right now, we'll take a quick break. I'm back with your open line. Remember, the number to dial this morning, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
The Tourism Business Council of South Africa presents the Tourism Leadership Conference from the 17th to the 19th of September under the theme Matters of Tourism, Growth, People and Policy. The conference brings together leaders to explore how tourism drives jobs, growth and opportunity in South Africa. Catch SAFM live on Thursday, 18 September, for exclusive conversations shaping the future of tourism. The TBCSA, the leading voice of tourism in South Africa. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, well, let's get straight into it. Your National Roundtable, everybody is invited. You all have a seat, and your view, your opinions matter. I'll be taking your calls at 086 000 2032. That's our studio line. And on the WhatsApp voice note line, send through those voice notes, text messages on 0614 104 107. Let me start off in Johannesburg this morning. Nonguleko, good morning to you.
Cathy, thank you for taking my call.
You guys are making my week 2 days in a row, and we're starting it with female callers. Long may it continue.
Long way to continue, Cathy. Thank
Yes,
you for the great
Nkululeko,
work
what do you
you're
want
doing.
to talk about?
Look, Cathy, I would love to say home affairs, but I'd rather say horror affairs. That's what I want to talk about. The department that is really not doing justice to many people. I'm speaking from a personal experience. It's been 12 months that I have been awaiting the Home Affairs Department to assist me with my children's change of last name, so surname. But not only that, because I've got from the Children's Court, according to the Children's Act 38 of 2005, a court order that has removed their biological father from their birth certificates, or he has no parental rights for reasons I don't want to go into. So this is from the Magistrates Court. The Home Affairs does not want to remove these details from their unabridged birth certificates, nor even change their last names to my current last name. And this is causing a challenge. So for 12 months, I've been told I must wait. Then I was told that the application forms, they can't find them. Then I had to reapply. This was like 10 months later. And up until today, nothing has been done. I've sent emails to their legal department, to their head office personnel. I've gone to Home Affairs Department almost every week, and still nothing. It is a horrific experience for me, especially because my eldest child needs to register for exams. He can't write his IAP exams. He's missed out on 2 opportunities to travel internationally to various youth and tours that were organized, and some were sponsored. But he can't travel, they can't write exams. They're South African children without an identity in South Africa because
Sure.
of Home Affairs.
And what is the department saying about why this is taking so long? What are the answers you've been given?
So I've spoken to various people at the head office who, I think it was by mistake or by fluke, they answered their phones. And the story changes every single day. The only one was honest and said, we can't find the forms. And I said, but it was last year in September. And he said, please go reapply. I reapplied, and then nothing was done. I sent emails with all the proof from the courts, all my applications, because you get a copy of the applications. I sent that to head office, and their legal department has not responded.
And tell me, what does this mean for your son now, Nonkuleko? Is he writing this year, or is in matric next year?
So he's in grade 10, but he's doing the IEB curricula. So from grade 9, grade 10, 11, and 12, they have to register for exams because it's international exams. So he can't write. Last year I had to do a little dance and a song and promise. Nothing was done, but he was able to write. But this year he won't be able to write exams. The younger ones, it's still okay for them because they're still in primary school, but it's not fair. So you can't travel with your children. They can't write exams. Their rights as South Africans are being withheld by a department that's supposed to protect us. It's very frustrating. Yesterday, I'll be very honest, I'm not one who sheds tears, but yesterday I walked out of Home Affairs and I cried. I cried so loud. Purely because I was sent a message to say your children's birth certificates are ready. When I got there, I did the application. I sat there for almost 4 hours. It was packed. I stopped my day, and I had to go with my kids because I didn't know whether I'd be able to apply for their passports immediately. After the printout, I looked. It was still the same document. Nothing was done, and I just cried. And for me, Cathy, I must be honest, as a mother, it's when you touch a mother's children in a way that disadvantages them and stops them from having opportunities, it cuts deeper than anything else.
Oh, Nongulileko, yeah, I can just hear your frustration. And rightfully so, given the fact that it's been 2 months of, 12 months rather, of this process and being sent from pillar to post only for nothing to have happened, only for you to not have moved. Okay, I'm going to put you back to Kanya. She'll take down your details. And I would really want to know what the legal implication might be of this, because she says this change has been ordered by a court for whatever reasons that the court has found admissible. How does Home Affairs deal with these kind of issues? Yes, every matter will have its complexity, but this, of course, would be something that is seen, I imagine, more regularly than not in our courts, given the state of, just if you look at the household statistics and how many women are heading households. So I'm not just saying that for the sake of saying it. Let me see. Okay, we've got another listener who wants to talk about the unabridged certificates. Let me do this. Olani in the Eastern Cape. Good morning.
Hi, Cathy. I hope you're well.
Yes, sir.
May I please? There is something I'm not sure whether I might call it dilemma or dilemma. Depends on which school you come from. Within the correctional services, that maybe we are so ignorant as society, including those who are in authorities, they are not looking at. Here is a situation, Cathy, to fast track it. A criminal gets charged and then sentenced to life imprisonment. And then the communities in and around are happy because the individual is no longer going to be available to continue doing a similar act. And yet within the correctional services systems or operational planning, they have no right to restrict the individual when the individual is on the inside to access what is happening on the outside. If you were to look at the situations of Bester's case, and then there is another case now in progress in Lusikisiki, where was it, that Lusikisiki massacre. The narration by an accused who turned state witness on the Daily Dispatch yesterday left me in shock, hence I had to make this call. Because if someone is on the inside and has all the resources to access and control.
Xolani, I don't want to cut you off too soon. Let's take the latest news headlines, and it'll also give me a chance to see if I can't pull up the article on the Dispatch too.
Well, the headlines at 9:30. I'm Dinomo Daun. Good morning. Limpopo ANC leaders and the party's Secretary General Fikile Mbalula are scheduled to meet today to discuss the provincial chairperson Stanley Mathabata's decision to step aside. In other news, an 80-year-old man who has admitted on camera to murdering someone and burying the body on his farm will appear in the Kroonstad Magistrates Court in the Free State this morning. And members of ABBA, the band that released Winner Takes It All, have found themselves losers. This after a government-appointed committee excluded them from what it calls Sweden's cultural canon. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply.
Get ready for the 26th edition of the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz, 3 memorable days from the 26th to the 28th of September across 4 spectacular stages at the Sandton Convention Centre. Join over 50 incredible, world-renowned stars on a musical journey deep into the heart and the art of jazz. Take me there. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call us on 086 000 2032.
You're listening to The Open Line. We continue the conversation this morning. It's your National Roundtable. I'm taking your calls on 086 000 2032 and on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. So, Xolani, we were talking about the access to the outside world, the access to resources that inmates seemingly still enjoy in some instances. And you were referencing the Lusikisiki massacre. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to pull up the article yet, but maybe tell us what it is that you have seen.
Okay, I think because I don't want to zoom in only on the article because it will end up focusing on a particular individual. And yet this thing we are so ignorant as society because it's happening all over until there's a change of law, Cathy. Because ask yourself this, as I was saying, if you are arrested, you are found guilty, charged a life sentence, and then when you are on the inside, the same state within correctional services, because they don't have the right to control or manage how you access what is happening on the outside, that you can actually lead a gang or a group of people to do all these heinous activities on the outside in various towns, because that article literally meant the accused who turned state witness narrates how the individual on the inside is controlling, is having people from East London, Butterworth, Mthatha, Lusikisiki, Port St. John's, Flagstaff, Bizana, Coxted, and Matatiele, that the person is inside on like serving a life sentence, but the individual has access on who to nominate, who to instruct to do what, and yet these resources are under the state control. So the question that I'm posing and wishing, Cathy, here from this side is that I wish there could be someone, whether from who is a lecturer within criminology, or someone within the National Parliament, or also from the justice system, to find out that how is it possible under the so-called rights that someone cannot be monitored and tracked on who they are interacting with. And also the resources, the monetary resources. How do they have that if you are serving a lifetime inside and still have the access to pay and allow people to go and do all these things? That is the area that I wish the topic could be looked at.
Okay, fair enough,
in terms of the resources,
that there must be an intervention. Life shouldn't just mean that you continue to live your life and you continue to do the things that you were doing even before you went to prison, and you enjoy the benefit of being part of society more broadly. But I think it's about the fact that you continue with your criminal networks. Yeah, and it opens up just such a broader conversation around contraband and just how it is that there's so many things that are sitting in our country's prisons that shouldn't be there, including just access to basic phone. I mean, if we talk about the Thabo Bester matter, he was able to have projectors, LED screens, live broadcasts from jail. Let's not forget just how insane that entire matter is. But this, of course, says that it's a broader problem and continues. Mahlangu in Mpumalanga, good morning.
Good morning, Osek.
Yes, sir.
I know you're okay. Okay, I've got a big problem. I've got a stepdaughter. I'm not going to share the name now. The problem, she's 18, and she doesn't have an ID. When I met the mother, she was still at about 5 years old and all those things, but there was a birth certificate, and life went on, and come last year, and she had to write the matric, and they wanted an ID, and went to the Home Affairs. Home Affairs don't want to accept their own birth certificate to issue an ID. Okay, cut the long story short, the school at least said she can still write the matric on the same ID number that was there. And then immediately I asked the mother, please go and sort out this issue. The mother went back and they said they want a biological father. The biological father, out of humility, he did come and they presented themselves. That is last year. Presented themselves at Home Affairs and they took whatever they wanted to take. Up until now, there's still no abridged. I don't know if it's abridged or unabridged. There's no abridged, there's no unabridged. Every time I make the queries, because the girl says dead to me, and I take her every day to work with me because she had to take an unplanned gap year. Even up today, all they tell you that is escalated. They are from archives somewhere. And I said, guys, what do you want? Tell us what you want from the archives, and then we can bring it to you. But I don't know. Man.
Yeah, you know, Mahlangu is your story is not the same as, but quite similar to what Nonkululeko was telling us when we started off the show. I do think that we should schedule a conversation with the Department of Home Affairs to explain what happens in these kind of instances and situations. Like I said, each of them are unique to the individuals and the circumstances around those individuals, but it shouldn't be taking so long to the point where it's inconveniencing these young people's lives, inhibiting their ability to access opportunity and to further their lives. It shouldn't be the cost that one has to pay to not be able to access these services.
No, okay. My biggest frustration is when you get to this agent, they just cannot escalate you personally to the next level. They escalate your issue. And we don't know if it's you that. I mean, maybe their pay grade is not there, with all due respect. But come on, that supervisor, can't I talk to the supervisor and hear what is happening? It's a year. I mean, it started, it's more than a year. It started in registration of matriculants, started in July last year. And it's the same situation. You go to this office, it's been escalated to a supervisor. The supervisor was, I don't know, this bureaucracy. I mean, I'll let it out there.
Okay.
I work for the bureaucracy myself. But if you put somebody there, give them the power to can get into the next level of the files and see what is happening. But no, it's sent to somebody. I mean, 15,005 sent to one person. When is that person gonna get to those five?
Yeah.
When is it gonna get to that five? Get to those five? Because all the call centers of government, there's a supervisor, and if you look at the what you call this thing, their performance, I've responded to 1,000 calls, but all those 1,000 calls were escalated to one person. When is that person connected to them?
Yeah.
Why cannot they do the job themselves?
Okay. Mahlangu, these are all very important points that you're raising, and we'll take down your details as well. And like I said, we will bring on the Department of Home Affairs to come and explain some of its own processes where applications such as the one you have made, such as the one Nongulileko has made, what is the process that those follow? What are the timelines associated with it? And why is it so hard for people to get answers when they're looking for them? Temba, you're in Tembisa. Good morning. Good morning, Temba.
Morning, Pip. How are you?
Yes, sir.
I'm good as well. I would like to talk about the 121 dockets, my sister.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, my sister, we are living in a mafia state. And us as a public, we tend to ignore this thing, and it's very serious. So the issue now is that those dockets must be sent to the commission. So in other simple ways, it means that commission, it has to work on the investigation that has been done, because some of those dockets, they were done. Investigation were done with the warrant of arrest. They only waited someone to sign and start prosecuting an arrest. But then now the president and his minister or whatever, they want to take those dockets back to the commission. So meaning that commission, it has to rely on something, on the job that has already been done. So you see something is fishing. And us as a South African, we are keeping quiet. You see, my sister,
But
guy,
Temba, do we know that those dockets were done? Do we know
Yes,
that
they
they
were
were
done.
arrested? How do we know?
We know the press conference.
No, how do we know? How do we know, Temba?
We've been told by the authority of KwaZulu-Natal, the
Yeah.
leadership of that political task team. They told us that the docket, and even that guy confirmed that those dockets have got warrant of arrest. But
Temba?
no one.
Can I tell you that when it concerns what is happening in the SAPS, I refuse to take anybody's word for it.
Mm-hmm. But in a simple logic, if you are not protecting my sister, if a simple logic, if the commission has been established, right, commission have to do their own work separately. The police have to do their work. The work of the police is almost done. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost done. So let the police deal with their issue aside, and the commission will do their work as well. Why they want commission to rely on those dockets? What are they hiding? Because they know if they give that docket to Mkwana, it's going to arrest them. All of them is going to be arrested. And as we don't want to talk about it, and also you guys at the media, you are diving around. You don't want to take the story to the spotlight. Because
But Temba, how else would we be having this conversation if we didn't want to bring it to the spotlight? You and I would not be talking about it.
It's not me and I. It's me who brought this issue now.
Yes, but I did talk about it this morning. In fact, I even said the matter was in court, and we were going to be keeping a close eye on it and take you live there, at least for the first part of the proceedings. Is that not what I said when I opened up the show? And I emphatically stated that at the heart of what has happened this week has been around the 121 dockets.
saying it, my sister, it's not enough. Why you guys on the media don't call those people who are relevant to find out why they want the commission to work on something that already be done? Because when they started those cases, there was a budget. They spent our money for nothing. Now they implemented the commission that has to go via those dockets, and those dockets are already be done. Why they don't want to send those dockets to Mkwanas, and we see what is going to happen. Let's not protect people here.
Temba, all of the questions that you are asking, those are all important questions and they're relevant questions. The issue that I asked you about was that you said that those dockets had arrest warrants sitting in them.
Exactly.
And all I asked you was, how do you know that? And you said from a press briefing. And I said, well, I don't accept that as a standard. The police have a much higher standard than just a he said, she said, your word against mine. At this point, we need a process that is going to bring clarity on what exactly is inside those dockets. And those dockets, yes, and they need to be protected, and they need to be protected. Well, I don't know. I don't know if the clarity is the commission, Temba. If you're questioning why they're going to the commission, I can question alongside with you.
The commission has to do their job aside. Let those dockets be where it belongs and see what is going to happen. Because if we don't want, we don't have care. We can even give the commission the copy. But the original docket, that 125, 121, must be sent to KZN to Mkwanas. Okay. And let's see what is doing. You see, if we don't take Ramaphosa out, guys, we are going to have a big problem, I'm telling you. Okay. Because all of this is him. And is being protected, but especially you are agent number one, protection number one for Ramaphosa. And that is wrong.
Temba, I can say this unequivocally, without fear or favor or even fear of contradiction, that on that one, you are wrong, my brother, and I reject it with the contempt that it deserves. Absolutely. You and I can debate issues, we can agree and disagree on whatever we do, but on that one, I do not accept that at all.
September is Deaf Awareness Month, a time to celebrate the deaf community, promote inclusion, empowerment, and break communication barriers. Let's listen with our hearts and not our ears. Learn and embrace a South African Sign Language. Join us throughout September for commemoration events, activities that educate, connect, and inspire. Visit our website, foundationnima.org, for more information. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
What about the AU?
My brother, AU is dead. AU is DEAD, is dead. It's a useless body. We've been captured by the French again. What will they do? Have they documented any crimes against humanity committed in Cameroon? No.
Okay.
Have they done anything? No. Have they intervened? No. AU is useless.
Dr. David Matsanga, and that's saying AU is dead. DEAD.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, we continue the conversation on the Talking Point. The number to dial for the National Roundtable, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Let me go to Tabo. Tabo, you're in Harrismith. Good morning.
Katie, good morning.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Katie. No, I'm worried about this thing of Comrade Matavase in Zimbabwe.
Okay, Tabo, speak a little bit louder for me.
I'm saying I'm worried about the story that I heard about Comrade Matavase in Limpopo.
Okay.
You know, now I'm lost. I'm lost, Kitty. I don't know where to go. I'm going forward or to best, because I don't understand what's going on or about this leadership or about the leadership, current leadership in ANC. I don't understand it. I don't know whether these people, they want to kill the ANC, or they want to do what. I'm confused. I can't. There is a motive behind this.
But Tabo, what is the motive, and where is it coming from?
As I'm saying, Katie, this leadership that we are having right now, really, I think they're taking ANC nowhere. I can see now. You see, they were saying this before, but I took this thing lightly. I was thinking that things would come right. So I don't understand. We've got the HG. I don't know what this guy is doing there. It's only talking, because but he can't do anything. He can't solve. And I'm telling you, if they can't solve this problem of Comrade Matavase in Limpopo, really it's gonna be a big problem, a big blow in ANC.
It's an important voting bloc for within the ANC structures, right? And it's a bloc that they've long relied on consistent support from.
You know, like I'm now. I don't know what to say. As I said before that, I'm lost with this current leadership. I don't know. Even the president, I can't see. He's taking ANC nowhere. Now I can be with those people who are saying this guy is not right now. Now I can believe.
Do you think, Tabo, that he's not providing the right kind of leadership, even to the ANC structures, which then results in what is happening? Because the fact that you would have a chairperson of a province resigned and by all indications did not communicate with any structures of the organization, that's also quite worrying. You know, it's quite telling.
And that shows, Katie, there is no communication. There is no good communication in ANC right now. Everybody is just talking whatever is talking. Like I'm saying, we've got the AG, but this AG we have at least we're having the AG now. He was talking about something. He was doing something. I want to be honest. He was doing something, even if he was corrupt, but he was doing something to people. He was talking to the people. This one is just talking too much on the media, just talking, but he can't act. He's doing nothing. That is why I'm saying, even really they can't solve this thing on Limpopo. It's a big blow for ANC.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, Tabo, thanks for that contribution. And I guess what Tabo is talking about is the fact that it's clear that the center on some level is not holding. Where is that center of leadership, of direction? David, you're in Mpumalanga. Good morning.
Thank you, Katie. One must commend the EFF, Katie, for being the voice of the voiceless. I'm referring to the workers, farm workers and the farm dwellers. They are exposing the real genocide, not the lies that were peddled by AfriForum saying that there's a genocide against white farmers in South Africa. Katie, another thing is, I think as media, we must challenge Minister Mzwanele Mani or something for the PAC. Umzwele Nyonso for the PAC, who's the Minister for the Land and Rural something, and Stian Ezen, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Labor, for them to go and conduct inspections, because in farms, the farm workers and dwellers are killed, ill-treated, and dehumanized. Their living conditions, Katie, are unbearable. One cannot imagine how they are living on a daily basis. We've seen on the newsroom last night the conduct of that barbarian who regards himself as a farmer, the 80-year-old racist farmer who has been arrested, who confessed of killing someone and burying him in his farm. So we must commend EFF, because amongst all the political parties that claim to be representing the black people, like the black farmers who are suffering, who are voiceless, I can see it's only EFF that are trying to do something about it. I'm not a member of EFF, but you must commend one if he or she is doing something. So EFF.
Look, David, and I think you're right in that it's not only about how far one is able to go with an issue, but just to keep the issue alive, even from a national discourse point of view. I think that takes a great deal of effort, and it also has to be credited, because these are stories, these are experiences and abuses that are underrepresented and not spoken about from a national point of view.
Lastly, Kate, if you can allow me, I think you as media, you must profile all these people, workers and dwellers who have been killed by white farmers in the farm, so that as to show the world the real genocide that is happening, not the lie that was peddled by AfriForum, because these people have families, they have names. We must know them. Just please try and profile them, and also challenge these ministers to go and conduct inspections. There's a lot of things that are happening there. These white farmers, because I'm saying white farmers, because even those that are not doing it are quiet, are not saying not in our name and condemning it. So for me, they are complicit. Thank you.
David, fair enough. David out in Mpumalanga. Okay, it's 10 o'clock already, so we'll take the latest news update. On the other side of the news, for Citizens Corner today, we're focusing on vaping in schools. Vaping in schools. And I also want to hear from the parents. Do your kids, your teenagers, do they own a vape? Do you allow them to smoke the vape? Do you allow them to take it to school?
Top stories: ANC holds talks on Limpopo chair's step aside, and Claremont taxi strike leaves commuters stranded. With the news, I'm Dino Motaung. Good morning. Limpopo ANC leaders and the party's Secretary General Fikile Mbalula are scheduled to meet today to discuss the provincial chairperson Stanley Mathabata's decision to step aside. Mathabata has cited some party members' unethical conduct. He is the Land Reform and Rural Development Deputy Minister. ANC provincial spokesperson Jimmy Machaka.
We have received the copy of the letter of the provincial chairperson, indicated his desire to step aside in his responsibility as the provincial chairperson of the ANC. The ANC in the province of Limpopo is constrained from dealing with the merits and demerits of what the letter of the provincial chairperson contains. So will await further guidance from the national leadership after they would have processed this matter and will act accordingly.
In other news, an 80-year-old man who has admitted on camera to murdering someone and burying the body on his farm will appear in the Kroonstad Magistrates Court in the Free State this morning is facing charges of murder and defeating the ends of justice. The suspect is the grandfather of another person accused of killing and burying a person in a shallow grave at a farm in Kroonstad. The grandfather told the media in a recording that the SAB is in possession of that he had killed before and would kill again if he were attacked on his farm. Cathy Mohlahlana is the provincial spokesperson.
Late yesterday evening, the farmer was taken to custody, 8-year-old man. There might be other arrests because we believe that the matter doesn't involve only one person. So as we have been picking it up from our investigation, but there are other forensic part of investigation which still need to be completed. We'll allow that to happen, but we believe that strongly that this case will stand today in court and there might be other additional suspect or one suspect to be added on it.
Moving to the Western Cape, the National Commissioner of Correctional Services, Makgoti Thobakgale, has conducted an unannounced visit to parolees in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. This visit is part of the Correctional Services Department's parole monitoring operation. Thobakgale visited about 30 parolees convicted of crimes including gender-based violence.
We covered all the 29 parolees. There is 10 that we did not find at home. Some of them, we actually found them on the same street where they reside. Of course, they give different reasons. The other one said he was attending church. But the fact of the matter is that the parole conditions do not allow them to be outside their yard or their homes at a particular given time.
In KZN, commuters in Clement and Guadabega near Pinetown are stranded for a second consecutive day as a taxi strike continues. Taxi operators have suspended operations. They are demanding the release of their vehicles that traffic police impounded last Friday, allegedly for not having permits. This comes after violent clashes between the Taxi Association and e-hailing services. Yesterday, the Clement and Guadabega Taxi Association issued a statement saying the strike would continue until its members' demands were met. Lastly, further afield, members of ABBA, the band that released Winner Takes It All, have found themselves losers. This after a government-appointed committee excluded them from what it calls Sweden's cultural canon. It has listed 100 items, including books, buildings, music deemed to capture the essence of Swedishness. All entries had to be at least 50 years old, but ABBA was formed 53 years ago and it won the Eurovision Song Contest 51 years ago. Sweden's cultural minister, Parisa Liljestrand, has rejected criticism that the list is divisive.
I have seen quite a few attempts to frame the cultural canon as something completely different, as an authoritarian project with the aim of identifying what is Swedish culture and what is not. It has even been described as a way of stifling free speech and a step towards totalitarianism. None of this could be more wrong.
Recapping the top story, the Sawa Limpopo ANC leaders and the party's Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula are scheduled to meet today to discuss the provincial chairperson Stanley Mathabata's decision to step aside. For SAFM News, I'm Dinamo Daung. Headlines at 10:30.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
When you're smiling, describe your favorite socks.
Pink and orange stripes.
They're blue with yellow dots.
Green, and they kind of look like snakes.
The ones that make children smile.
On 19 September, wear your favorite socks and help spread smiles to children in need of a life-changing surgery. Get your Socks for Smile sticker today at smilefoundation.co.za. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times.
Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.1 FM in Bombela. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point. Welcome to the second hour of the show. It's 8 after 10 o'clock. Coming up in this hour, we'll be talking vaping in schools, and we'll be talking around, well, what are some of the issues that schools are facing right now, and how we as a society should be thinking about this part of our lives and how it is that we want it to be regulated. It's an important conversation for us to have, and of course, we don't just want to leave it to the schools or even to the Department of Basic Education to figure out and to deal with on their own. So coming up in this hour, we'll be joined by a number of guests who speak to different aspects of the conversation. And I know that when we talk to vaping, often it also comes down to, is it smoking? Is it not smoking? Is it healthy? Is it unhealthy? And what I would try for us, or what I would want us to try and do, is not to steer it down that debate. Part of it is inevitable, but while we still debate on the unknowns and some of the studies that are being done in this respect, we also have to be making legislation, particularly for schools, that they can implement now. What do we allow in the meantime, with all that we know and all that we don't know? And that's perhaps the tone that I would want us to set for the conversation. Before we get into it, your WhatsApp voice notes.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Hi, Cathy. I'm driving to work now. I'm in Cape Town, and I saw this motorcade. I did see the other day again, but I think it's carrying some minister or somebody. You know, they'll have these big cars, like 4 of them, and they drive on the My City bus lane because they're too important to sit in traffic with the rest of us. How do we expect that these government officials are going to make sure that public transport works if they never have to feel the pain of sitting in traffic because they get exempted and can use the My City bus lane? This is the problem with this country. We cannot expect that government officials are going to fix our everyday problems. When they're exempt, they get special treatment. It is so upsetting. Anyway, have a great day, Cathy. Bye.
Hi, good morning, Cathy and the crew. Cathy, I just want to say in this country, we still have a long way to go in as far as the justice system is concerned. I think we need to work hard in improving our justice system in this country. I'm a first-time caller, but a regular listener. Mtetheleli Umtata. Thank you.
Good morning, SAFM. It's amazing to know that politicians all know each other and they know what crimes they commit amongst each other. And the fact that there's no political party except for the NCC, I think, who's come out and actually exposed these things means that everybody's got something to lose. So within that 120 dockets, there's probably 80% of all the parties are involved. Or know of what is going on and somehow benefit So yeah, we need to get this matter sorted. This commission, we should boycott as a country. We should go and say we don't want this commission. We want them all arrested and they can stand trial for their crimes. That is how policing is supposed to work. So the concern here is when, I don't know. Actually at a loss for words because this is very, very concerning.
Good morning, Cathy. The resigning of Mathabata was imminent. He is in the mess also. Now he has thrown the premier under the bus and in fact the whole province. Now people will know what's happening in Limpopo. Anonymous.
Hello, Katie. I'm Tulane Kunene from Newcastle. Katie, why they don't retrench these old people in parliament rather than to retrench the people from Eastco and Glencoe? These people, they play our mind. Politician, oh, anytime when Ramaphosa is speaking TV, I close my TV because I hate to listen lies.
Hi, SKC. You know, these accusations of Mkwanazi will not be changed by politicians who are taking sides. That portfolio in parliament, everybody is already taking their own side, believing in what side. So I don't think they will come up with credible evidence.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. The University of KwaZulu-Natal will take on the University of Zululand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 5th of September 2025. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
All right, you're listening to Citizens Corner on this Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. So, one of the issues that schools are now grappling with is around vaping. In fact, the University of Cape Town has described this as a vaping crisis among high school pupils. Nearly 30% of grade 12 learners are reported to be actively using vaping. And this is as a result of this study by UCT from a pool of 25,000 pupils across 52 schools. And it was published in the Lancet eClinical Medicine. So a fully recognized published article in the Lancet. What it also revealed is that 16.8% of high school learners had vaped in the past 30 days, that is, the study was published on the 29th of November, so they had vaped within the 30-day period prior to the study actually being conducted. Who makes up these numbers? 29.5% are matric learners. In some schools, that reached as high as 46%. There were lower rates reported of tobacco use. So if you look at the use of cigarettes, of cannabis, and the hookah pipe, only 2% of those surveyed used tobacco, 5% admitted to using cannabis, and 3% admitted to using the hookah pipe. And this is then the state of affairs when it comes to our school, because those figures tell you just exactly where things are. Well, to help us navigate our way in this conversation on Citizens Corner this morning, we're joined by Sfiso Ngobese, who is the Director for School Safety at the Department of Basic Education. Sfiso, good morning to you.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to your listeners.
We're also going to be joined by Professor Richard van Zyl Smith. He is a consultant pulmonologist at UCT and Groote Schuur Hospital, and we'll see then how far we can get with this particular one. Before I give Sfiso an opportunity to give us a perspective from the Department of Basic Education, I want you to listen to some of the concerns that have been raised by Professor van Zyl Smith, who made submissions to the public hearings, and this is around the proposed Tobacco Products and Electronic Delivery Systems Control Bill of 2022, and he has urged that this particular piece of legislation also needs to help regulate the use of vaping in schools.
We have not seen this explosion, this usage of vaping previously. We know that youth tobacco has been present. There are some estimates, although the numbers are very small, from 2016 South African Demographic Health Survey, showing that vaping is there, but not particularly high. So what did we find? Well, 36% of high school learners surveyed reported ever having tried, which is roughly the same as what the US said, around 34%. And when asked, what have you used within the last 30 days, or have you used in the last 30 days, this is the striking data. So roughly 20% any, 16% vaping, 2% tobacco, which was remarkably low, 5% cannabis, which is probably a topic for another day, which is worryingly high, and hookah.
All right, so that then becomes the state of affairs. Sfiso, these are things that are happening in the country schools right now, because this data taken from learners in South African schools in the last year, you deal with it on a day-to-day basis. Talk to us about what it is that you as the department are seeing.
Thank you, Cathy. The numbers are also very much indicating a situation that is not supposed to be happening. As the Department of Basic Education, we are very clear when it comes to, substances being brought at schools. We have a zero tolerance for smoking of whatever form and whatever nature, whether it's hookah pipes, vapes, e-cigarettes, tobacco products are not allowed. When you enter a school gate, most of our schools will have all the prohibited materials that are not supposed to go to school, including guns and weapons and cigarettes, as well as any other drugs that learners might be carrying is not supposed to be brought into the school premises. But we know that learners being learners, they will bring it to schools. And that is where the issues of codes of conduct for each school then kick in terms of the learner that will then bring these items at schools. But as a department, we are quite proactive in a sense that we have talks. Learners are made aware of all the stuff that is not wanted within the school premises, so that they know that if they do come with it at a school, are actually transgressing, they are breaking the law.
What have you found to be the issue when it comes to whether or not children are bringing vapes to school?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So obviously this is something like any other drug or substance use or something classified along that line that has to be monitored and to some level policed by schools. But why are you finding that so many young people are actually wanting to bring their vapes to school and not necessarily, let's say, if they're smoking them in their homes or at malls or whatever the case is?
Yeah, I think it might have to do with the accessibility of these vapes, and also the myth that might be there, around the fact that people are thinking that this is, the damage of using the vapes maybe to a lesser extent is better than your ordinary cigarette. I think it might be the myths around that, but also it might have to do with access. Getting it maybe cheaper, easily accessible for quite a number of our learners. Those might be the issues that I think might be contributing to the issue.
How have you then been instructing schools to deal with it?
Well, like I indicated earlier on, the department has a zero stance when it comes to, bringing any other stuff that is unwanted within the school premises. I can relate also to the searches and seizures that we recently conducted as late as last week, that we are finding this, but we are still also finding your ordinary cigarette. We also find learners bringing dacha to schools. In one of the schools where the searches and seizures were conducted last week, we were able to get this. But we also, the police, because we work with the police, we were in a position to arrest people that were selling through the school fence at the back, where the toilets are usually people from the community that were selling. These were apprehended by the police because of the operation that we recently undertaken with the police.
If a child is caught with a vape in a school, what happens? So what is the disciplinary course of action? With regards to cannabis, it is well, I suppose for minors, it is illegal. Yeah, because cannabis has been legalized in society. So I'm quite interested to know how you deal with it from a legality point of view. So when you're engaging the police to assist you in some of these raids, and I know that in some schools you found really horrific things. You'll find drugs. You'll find, some children who are armed, whether with knives, with guns. The story just, it doesn't end in terms of what you can find. But when it is cannabis, when it is cigarettes, when it is a vape, what is the appropriate and legal step that you as the department can take? And when I say you, under there you can sort of just also insert a school, because you of course would be the overall custodian of what it is that schools can and can't do.
Yeah, Cathy, each school will have its own code of conduct, but largely that will constitute a serious misconduct. Anyone who brings illegal stuff or unwanted stuff or totally banned stuff from school premises, that will be taken as a serious offense, and applicable sanctions that the school would have put in their code of conduct will then kick in. A learner may be suspended, a learner may be subjected, for example, if it is drugs, may even be subjected to testing, because we know they are children, and we know mistakes, they make mistakes, but we also know that when children are growing up, they like to experiment and do things. So we do not just want to cast them out of the school. There is also support that is within the school where, for example, the school-based support team, will actually work with that particular child, but that does not mean that the, consequences are not there. So what will then happen, especially when we do sometimes discover that some of the learners that you have in our schools are learners that have been using substances for quite some time, and they actually now need a serious intervention. It is then that the school-based support team will refer the matter to the Department of Social Development to take over so that that particular learner is assisted. But also, we do not leave behind the parents, because we have to make sure that the parents understand what the child has done, the kind of transgression that he has committed at the school, and also we'll also look into, try to assist that learner. But there are always consequences, because learners know that they are not supposed to bring any of this particular stuff within the school premises.
Yeah, there seems to be, at least in society more broadly, an acceptance of vaping, and it's not seen necessarily as anything that is overly harmful. In fact, people talk about how they've moved from smoking to vaping, and how that is improving their health. These are just some of the anecdotal stories that are out there. In as far as the view of parents, what is the sense that you get? How are parents responding to their children vaping?
Even though we have not conducted any form of study, but it is a worrying factor. Cathy, I can relate a story where we were in Northwest in a primary school, and the principal was just showing us the vape that he caught from a grade 7 learner. So you can actually see that it is really, getting into primary schools as well, which is something that we are trying at all costs to prevent. But we also see that, because schools are microcosm of communities in which they found themselves, the trend outside the school also contributes to what we see happening in the school, because young adults, those that might have finished schools, previous years, they are no longer in schools, and it is seen as something that is cool by those that are looking at them. They also mix in the communities. So it becomes an issue for us in the schools, and we think that parents are equally concerned, just like us as a department.
All right, we're going to take the latest news headlines. When we continue, Professor Van Zyl Smith is on the line. He'll also be weighing in as far as that research by UCT is concerned.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines on SAFM, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. The High Court in Pretoria has started to hear the matter between suspended Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection Shadrack Sibiya and National Police Commissioner Fani Masemula. EFF members in Free State have gathered outside the Kroonstad Magistrates, where an 80-year-old is due to appear this morning. They want the court to deny him bail,
And some political analysts say Limpopo ANC chairperson Stanley Mathabata has decided to step down to protect his deployment to government. ANC provincial leaders and the party's Secretary General Fikile Mbalula scheduled to meet today to discuss Mathabata's decision. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 17 rand 71 to the dollar, 23 rand 67 to the pound, and 20 rand 61 to the euro. Markets in Asia were weaker at the closing bell. The JSE is lower in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe have extended gains. Gold is trading at $3,534. Platinum $1,390 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $68.82 a barrel.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 120-gram Lay's potato chips, any two for 36 Rand, and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 2-liter Pepsi, Mirinda, or Mountain Dew, original only, any two for 30 Rand, and 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 7 September 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2. For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue our conversation on vaping for this hour. It is Citizens Corner, and we're talking about vaping in schools, a growing phenomena that we are seeing, and one which the University of Cape Town is warning we should all be concerned about. 30% of grade 12 learners reported that they were actively using vaping. Meanwhile, a number of other learners also acknowledged using tobacco, using cannabis, and using the hookah pipe. Sfiso Ngobese is from the Department of Basic Education, and Professor Van Sale Smith is a pulmonologist at UCT's Groote Schuur Hospital, and he also serves as a consultant. Richard, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning, listeners. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into, what it is that schools can do to try and deal with this issue, I want us just to begin with looking at these figures and why there are these alarm bells being rung. Why should we as society be concerned about this?
Yeah, it's a broad question, but I think the rise of vaping is a reflection, I think, on some degree of distress amongst high school learners. We know that adolescence is a difficult time, and we now have on the market a drug, and there's no way of getting around the fact that vaping is a drug because it contains nicotine, that has been heavily marketed in a manner that people are perceiving it to be a completely safe thing to use. It's widely accessible, it's freely available, and it is fulfilling a need in adolescents who are trying to cope with life and stress, and the resultant addiction levels that we're seeing, notwithstanding any other heart, lung, or other body concerns in the long term are really worrying, and I said that's why we are trying to raise these alarm bells that the adolescents is a particular group where we need to be concerned about. Now, I can talk for hours on whether or not it's a safer alternative for adults. It's a completely different discussion. I think our youth are particularly vulnerable and being exploited.
Yeah, and thank you for making that point, Richard, because I'd also emphasized it when we started the show that I think the way in which we approach this conversation in relation to teenagers will, of course, be different to what we do as adults. You speak unequivocally about the fact that vaping is you're using a drug because it contains nicotine. This is not the widely accepted position or stance. In fact, what we have been made to believe is that vaping is not harmful, nor is it dangerous at all. So if we're then to look at nicotine in and of itself as the substance that is there which you've identified, what are the dangers of nicotine for young people?
To answer your question in a roundabout manner, I was talking to a high school yesterday about vaping. And I made the point that in my laboratory experiments, when I bought nicotine to do my experiments in the lab, it comes in a metal box and it has a drug safety sheet that says, do not inhale, do not touch, do not get contact with your skin. If inhaled, get fresh air and see a doctor. So there's no question that nicotine is a poison. It is a pesticide, and it has multiple effects. It's kind of been around within tobacco and kind of got ignored. It's also a little bit skewed in that we give nicotine replacement to people who try to stop smoking. And it's been argued that, well, you shouldn't give people nicotine to stop smoking because it's a dangerous drug, but that's in the context of smoking. But just nicotine itself, it's a highly addictive substance. So just think of any addiction, be it porn, be it gambling, be it alcohol, be it any form of addiction is bad for both society and the individual. Nicotine in the adolescent interferes with brain development, it interferes with learning, school performance, has risks of long-term anxiety, depression, and mental health. Nicotine itself also has cardiovascular and systemic effects. It impacts on how your metabolism works. It impacts on blood vessels and blood pressure. So there are a myriad of negative effects of nicotine that no one should be consuming nicotine in any circumstance. There's zero value in doing it. It just happens I've never been able to get rid of tobacco. Therefore, nicotine use is common in society, and that's a legacy of 100 years now, at least.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, then, Professor Van Zyl, when people say that, oh, but it's just nice, I don't do it because I have to. I do it just because it's nice, and I'm using this in reference to vaping. Part of what is underlying in such a statement is what you have now explained from a medical point of view. That in fact, it's not just nice. It's not just about enjoying the feeling of vaping. Is that there is a highly addictive substance that is going into your bloodstream that is then releasing this, it's just nice feeling.
Absolutely. And the challenge, and I had this argument, so I've been talking a lot about vaping recently. I was at the parliamentary committee meeting last week presenting around the tobacco bill and highlighting the issue amongst adolescents. And it was argued that it's not as bad as tobacco. And so the problem with that argument is that tobacco kills 50% of people that use it and has a multitude of issues. So if you're a non-smoker, it doesn't matter how much less dangerous it is, it's how much more dangerous is it than fresh air. And there's probably no question, although we can discuss this at length as well, that vaping is not as bad as tobacco. But even if the vaping only killed 45% of people who vaped, it would be considered safer than tobacco. So tobacco is a very bad yardstick to use to decide whether vaping is a good idea or not. And again, this is part of marketing and why we have this issue. And the parents, similarly, we're speaking about adolescents, have heard it's safer than, and so safer than does not equal safe. And so, again, I think the industry has been very good at marketing it, and the individuals have not recognized the risks. And so we are trying our best to try and rewrite that narrative that if you're a non-smoker and you're an adolescent, it doesn't matter how dangerous tobacco is. You are adding risk to yourself.
You know, earlier when we started the conversation, Sfiso, who is the director for school safety at DBE, spoke to us about just what it is that they're seeing within schools on this issue. There is, however, a demographic nuance that's there, Richard, and I think it's important for us to reflect on that for some time. Where are we finding the most prominent use of vapes, and why does that matter? What should that tell us too?
So, yes, I think the demographic and the distribution is important. We know that with tobacco already, that if you live in Limpopo, your tobacco prevalence in adults is about 1.3% usage, and if you're in Cape Town, it's close to 30 or 40%. So we know that different people do different things around the country. We thought when we set out to do the study that this was just going to be a rich, fancy school problem. Now, unfortunately, due to a whole lot of funding issues, we were not able to access non-fee paying schools in rural areas. But we have schools where the school fees range from 20,000 Rand a year all the way up to over 200,000 Rand a year. And interestingly, the school fees, which we use just as a proxy marker for socioeconomics, the schools that their fees were between 20 and 40,000 compared to above 90,000 a year, was actually higher vaping in the lower income schools. Now, clearly that doesn't reflect a non-fee paying school or rural schools, but I have been asked to speak at primary schools in areas such as Salt River and Woodstock in Cape Town, which are by no means affluent, to grade 7s because they're having an issue with vaping. I have friends who are principals at schools where their school fees is 1,000 or 2,000 Rand a year, and they're having issues. So there certainly is an issue with access. You have to be able to afford it. I think the patterns will look slightly different. Certainly there's a cultural phenomenon around hookah, cannabis access as well. But in a sense, it doesn't matter if low-income schools are not vaping because higher-income schools are. And so we can't disregard the crisis in some schools because it's not a universal crisis. We can be grateful that it's not a universal crisis. But I'm not entirely sure that it isn't a universal crisis, having spoken to people. But absolutely, I do not know what vaping prevalence is like in a rural, no-fee paying school. And I'm interested to find out.
Okay, and I'm going to bring in some of the responses that we're getting from our listeners. Sfiso, is this consistent with what you're seeing as DBE?
I think it is consistent because, I'm just thinking of the searches that we conducted last week. It was more of a rural school, and definitely there was no vaping that we found there. But we did find tobacco products, cigarettes, but no vaping at all. So I think it is consistent with what we are actually seeing as well.
Have schools been found on the back foot on this issue?
I think to a larger extent, yes, because The way it is, even the packaging, the way you see it, you might not even realize that is something that learners are smoking. So if you are a teacher that would not have seen somebody vaping, you would not immediately, for example, see that the learner is carrying a vape. So schools, I think they, to a certain extent, been overwhelmed in a sense that even some of their policies were not specifically speaking to vaping, but they were speaking to smoking and the use of cigarette.
Should the department not be the one taking the lead on that? Because you are the ones that are supposed to have that macro view, right? And be aware of the insights into what is happening globally, what is happening locally. And where there are harms such as this, as you've told us in the your zero tolerance policy, then surely your role would have also been to ensure that schools are up to speed with the dangers around this.
Oh, definitely, yes. It is not just through our awareness campaigns. We have written circulars to provinces just indicating the issues of, schools that they need to take to the fact that this is, it's not just a minor thing that is harmless. It is harmful. We have spoken about the, issues of harmful nature of using vapes, particularly in schools and by younger children. We have done that, and we definitely have to do more. I accept and agree with that in terms of making sure that the awareness campaign, they don't stop, but it becomes a continuous as we also gather this kind of information, even the research that we are getting out of it, because initially it was thought, even, using hookah pipe, it was thought that it is really harmless. There is nothing wrong with it. But we have seen consequences of that. We have seen videos of those that are now struggling because they have been using hookah pipes or vapes.
Okay, let me bring in some of the reflections of our listeners, because I do want us to come back to this policy issue and hear what Richard has to say about that.
Well, Cathy, and your guest. Cathy, yesterday I earnestly asked my son, who is a high school learner, to stay away from the peers who have drifted into vaping. Then he told me that is good, and I said to him, seemingly the word cool has lost meaning. I told him that a person who does vaping is just like a nyaope in the making. So I don't like vaping, Vaping is just like that habli bablu hookah pipe, They are the substances themselves. They are so harmful to the land. So it's just that our kids don't listen to us when we reprimand them on such substances. Good morning, lovely people. Hausen from Bradfish.
Good morning, Cathy. My son is forbidden from using vapes, and he has been caught with one in his possession 3 times at his high school. And the 3rd time that they caught him, he went for disciplinary. And he stands to be expelled should he be found with one again in the school premises. I've never bought him a vape. I do not allow it at home. And I speak for myself when I say I don't approve a child to vape. He's only 14 and in grade 9 and insists to use this thing. Even after I've shown him the evidence of what it does, the harm and damage it does. But anyway, yeah, that's my take on it. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Cathy. Cathy Mohlahlana. Cathy, what is happening now in our schools is a disaster. The reason for me to say that is we have our own kids who leave our houses, but when they get to school, they are co-managing the school with the principal and the what do you call this, that committee that leads the school. So principals and teachers have no control over the school, but it is controlled by our own kids. So I think something must be done from school, because at home they behave as if they are fine, but they took advantage of this leadership of the schools. And that should be brought to an end. Thanks.
Good morning, Cathy. Cathy, this is a big problem that we are facing in the society. I'm asking myself, if these kids behave like this from school, what is the future for them? You know, I'm driving them most of the time around Cape Town. I'm an Uber driver. So, you know, they are the one, I will say 70% of the people who refuse not to smoke in the car are them. You know, they like to vape, you know, and if I'm saying to them, you are not allowed to smoke in the car, they said no, vaping is not a smoke. So I'm you know, the attitude that they have, it's a problematic. You know, I don't know. Thank you so much. Luz will be kept down.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for those reflections. And I think all of them quite varied. Of course, I also empathize with the parents who are trying to speak to their children about this, but seemingly not being able to convince them or foster that understanding. Professor Van Zyl, any advice and any contributions that you can give in as far as policy approach, but also for those parents that are trying to, you know, highlight the risks with their children and just not winning?
So yeah, I think, I mean, the policy challenge is accessibility, right? The reason that high school learners don't drink as much as they could is because you can't buy alcohol under 18, but you can buy a vape on the way to school. So if we just think, if alcohol was freely available, how many more kids would arrive at school having stopped at a shebeen or a bar or a bottle store? And so the accessibility, I think, is really, really important. That clearly banning the sales and restricting the sales isn't going to solve the problem. But it's very difficult for a school to manage a vaping problem when the biggest supplier to the school is the cafe immediately outside the school and they can't do anything about it. Secondly, I think prevention has got to happen early. I've heard of reports of grade 3s and grade 5s vaping. And so part of sex ed and all the other education that goes in with tobacco and drugs has to happen at junior school. I think by the time you hit to high school, prevention probably has flown out the window, and then we need to help people stop. And it's again, it's changing the storyline that safer than doesn't equal safe. And parents do have a major problem because all the information that the high school learners are getting is from TikTok and industry. And so we have to create resources. We have to create a team movement to create content that the high school learners will listen to. And I've said before, I'm not the face of TikTok. It's no good me going on TikTok telling how bad it is. We need the youth to engage with each other, and they are starting to do that. So it's a multifaceted approach that needs to happen here.
But I think, I mean, some of the things that you've touched on speak to how we can be proactive as people within a society, as parents, but I think also for the schools, because you're right in that if there's harm, we recognize this with alcohol, which is why there's now regulation that talks about taverns and proximity to schools. And your argument then is to say that should be the same, even for use of substances such as tobacco and of vaping. Fiso, are we there? Is the Department of Basic Education there? Is that something that you can say you are currently actively working towards?
At the moment, you are right, Kathy. It is still about, ship-ins and taverns, the 500-meter radius. But I think it's a good point, and I think it's a conversation that is just bigger than the Department of Basic Education in a sense that all other relevant departments like Department of Health, like local municipalities, in terms of making sure that something like that is regulated properly so that it then becomes the law. I think it will, to a greater extent, assist in schools, assist us in the Department of Basic Education.
Yeah, and I guess nothing nothing prevents vaping being added from the legislation around, your taverns too, that 500-meter rule. Mzwandile, you're in the Eastern Cape. Good morning.
Hi, Cathy. Thank you. I think you just touched on part of what I was about to raise. And my biggest issue or disappointment is government, to be honest. The slow pace at which policies are being formulated and implemented, because it's not the first time we're hearing about vaping issues. As early as before COVID, Cathy, if you can go 2017, America already had a public health crisis on teenagers that were vaping, others ending up in ICU with popcorn lung disease. And I think South African Thoracic Society had made noise about this for the longest time. And today we still hearing people saying they're going to be collaborating with departments. For me, I get perplexed as a citizen that we are trying to engage SDG goals where we're trying to decrease TB and all these other communicable diseases. But a simple thing as just putting policy and preventing early lung destruction in our children, which has been shown that if you have any insult on a child or any young person, any insult on their lung as early as childhood, that is going to basically affect how they are going to be as an adult, as an economically active adult. I struggle to understand why government has to be called to the party and they take 5 years and then they'll tell you that they're thinking about a policy to protect their citizens. I think that's where I'm calling from a point of disappointment that I'm only hearing that Prof actually engaged Parliament only now, when South African Thoracic Society has been making noise about this for the longest time.
Mzwandile, do you think if it was treated as a public health risk, it would receive a different response?
It is a public health risk.
Yes, but I'm saying if it was treated as such, I'm not disputing that it is, yes, but I'm saying if it was treated as such, do you think that would have different outcomes?
I'm hopeful. I think I'm hopeful if they would treat it as such, there would be a bit of sense of urgency to try and protect our kids. And by our kids, I don't think, as you've heard, that it's mostly the people they can afford. Imagine when they start creating these counterfeit devices that they're going to be selling to all these rural kids. What are we going to be seeing in our hospitals that are not even ready to assist these kids?
Mzwandile, I've heard you loud and clear, and in fact, that could be the next phase of our conversation, where then we bring in all of these other stakeholders to find out why it is that it seems to be taking long to recognize the very great risk of this issue. Let me thank all of my guests for coming onto the show this morning. Siso Ngobese, Director, Department of Basic Education, Professor Richard van Zyl Smith, who's a consultant pulmonologist at UCT and Groote Schuur Hospital, also behind the research that has been published in The Lancet, and of course to you as our listeners for your ongoing engagement. It's 11 o'clock, time for the latest news.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, court hears matter between Sibiya and Masamula and a call for urgent aid after massive landslide in Darfur region. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana and a very good morning. The High Court in Pretoria has started to hear the matter between suspended Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection Shadrack Sibiya and National Police Commissioner Cathy Mohlahlana. Sibiya wants the court to declare his suspension unlawful in a bid to be reinstated. Mohlahlana suspended Sibiya in July for the alleged unlawful disbandment of the KwaZulu-Natal team tasked with investigating political killings. He has vehemently denied this. EFF members in Free State have gathered outside the Kroonstad Magistrates Court, where an 80-year-old is due to appear this morning. They want the court to deny him bail. The man has admitted on camera to murdering someone and burying the body on his farm. He's facing charges of murder and defeating the ends of justice. The suspect is the grandfather of another person accused of killing and burying a person in a shallow grave on the farm. EFF Deputy Provincial Chairperson Thomas Maqingwane.
Here today at Kroonstad Magistrate Court, where we are here to demonstrate as to also ensure that the perpetrator does not get bail, because today is his bail application. Ours is that the man is a danger to society. He must remain in custody until the trial.
Some political analysts say Limpopo ANC chairperson Stanley Mathabata has decided to step down to protect his deployment to government. ANC provincial leaders and the party Secretary General Fikile Mbalula are scheduled to meet today to discuss Mathabata's decision. Mathabata has cited some party members' unethical conduct as the reason for his decision. He is the Land Reform and Rural Development Deputy Minister. Political analyst Levindo looks at Mathabata's possible motive.
The former premier and chairperson of the ANC is fully aware that if he had decided to resign from the party, it could easily affect his position as the deputy minister in the national government. He has decided to take this decision so that he's able to keep his position as the deputy minister.
18 families have been displaced after a fire broke out in the Makausi informal settlement in Ekurhuleni this morning. 2 people were injured in the blaze while one suffered from smoke inhalation while trying to put out the fire. The City of Ekurhuleni Disaster and Emergency Management Services spokesperson Maswati Mudluli says the cause of the fire remains unknown.
We have counted about 10 shacks that were destroyed in this place, and 18 families have been displaced. City of Ekurhuleni can be reached in this emergency call number 011-458-0911.
The leader of a rebel group in Sudan has called for urgent international aid following a deadly landslide in Darfur region on Sunday night. Only one person is reported to have survived the destruction of the village of Tassin in the mountainous Jebel Mara area of the region. Reports say that Tassin, famed for its citrus production, has now been completely leveled to the ground. The Sudan Liberation Movement, the armed group in control of the affected area, says it lacks the equipment to save anyone who might be trapped. The group's leader, Abdel Wahid Al-Noor.
Till now, people confirm there in the ground. We have a civil authority there, and they estimate above 1,000 people are dead, or at least they're under the ground, under the mud. We feel helpless because we don't have any kind of equipment to rescue them.
Recapping the top story, the High Court in Pretoria has started to hear the matter between suspended Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection Shadrack Sibiya and National Police Commissioner Cathy Mohlahlana. I'm Ondela Mbana for SFM News Headlines at 11:30.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Do you know what's hiding behind colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by 30 September.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday. Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Dumelas, Cathy, vaping is a problem. My daughter came to visit me in December last year. She's 14 now. She came with a strange looking like a lighter because I did not know. When I look at it, it's vaping. And when I confronted her, she said, "No, you are old. People are using this. All the learners at school are using this." So the other problem is that the powers have been taken away from us as parents. There are certain things that you can do as a parent to discipline your child, and certain things that you cannot, especially at school premises. You cannot go with them at school. So this is a problem, and I think the government needs to do something, or maybe regularize this thing. Let's all East London.
Hi, Cathy and listeners. This is to the parents, and well, actually more to the teenagers. I don't know how many of them listen to this show. But many years ago, I was having problems with insects on my plants in the garden, and I read that nicotine is a very good insecticide. So I got hold of some nicotine from cigarettes, the ends of cigarettes that hadn't been finished smoked, and I made a tea. I sprayed my plants. Soon after that, I found out that it's actually highly against the law to have nicotine tea as a spray for your plants because it's so very, very poisonous. So I had to get rid of it. I didn't want to be in trouble over that. But the fact that it's illegal as a tea spray to keep insects off your plants because it's so poisonous, but they allow you to actually vape this into your lungs, into your body, and government allows this. Please, teenagers, think about this. Why is government allowing you to put this into your body and not make any laws to stop you, but you can't spray it on your plants?
Good morning, Cathy. Theo in Cape Town. Cathy, this thing of vaping, it's so bad. My daughter been caught in school vaping twice. And now we're facing this problem and weeds, all those wrong things school kids are doing these days is just too much. The school should take a measure like searching kids before they enter the premises. They must search them from the gate before they enter the premises. They will get scared from not bringing this thing into the school. But what they're doing, they only react, but they don't prevent. To prevent is searching them before they even enter the school. Theo in Cape Town, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to all of the parents who've shared their experiences. And I think on this one, right, as we point the finger to government at some point, it's one of those where my primary school principal would say that there are four fingers pointing back at you. Because as parents, we also have to take that responsibility. When your child is coming home with a vape and you are unable to manage or control their use of it, what are you truly expecting the school to do? If a child leaves your house with a vape in their bag, why does that responsibility not begin in the home? And it now must be a problem that is put on somebody else's shoulders. So it's just about responsibility and how we share that responsibility. Yes, teenagers will be teenagers, they'll take chances and find loopholes. But as parents, we also have to equip ourselves with the tools that we need to be effective in situations like this. And yes, I'm speaking like this because I've got 2-year-old toddlers who don't have a choice but to listen to everything I have to say. All parents often say to me, wait until they're teenagers. So I do take it with I do take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt too, because I'm not there yet. Our final conversation for this morning, for the final hour of the show, it's 12 after 11 o'clock. We're looking at the buy now, pay later phenomena. It is the fastest growing payment option for both online and in-store purchases. You have popular providers that include the likes of Payflex, Happy Days, Pay Just Now, and Float. And this allows you to receive your items immediately while splitting the purchases into several interest-free installments. So you can enjoy whatever it is that you want. Instant gratification. Remember Brian was telling us about this yesterday. The marshmallow test. Are you going to eat the marshmallow now? Or if I say wait, and in 30 minutes, if you haven't eaten it, I'm coming back with 2 marshmallows. Or are you going to be the guy that waits for 15 minutes? In the official experiment, only 15% of people did not eat the marshmallow. They couldn't wait 30 minutes. So, this is taking advantage of our inability to wait and to be patient. The big issue, however, is that none of these platforms, at least those that I've mentioned, are regulated and they fall outside the National Credit Act. So, big questions about what happens if you're unable to keep up with payments. Leonie van Pletzel is the CEO at Microfinance South Africa. She joins me now. Leonie, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Leonie, which segment of financing does this fall under?
So this actually falls outside of the National Credit Act. So this is a grey area, a loophole within legislation. And we can see that this is getting legislated in other countries under the National Credit Act. So we are also calling for fair regulation on this. I think the biggest concern that MFSA has at this stage is that proper affordabilities on consumers are not being done, and data is not being uploaded to the credit bureaus, which leaves other credit providers blind about the credit that the consumers have taken.
Is this an example, Leonie, of technology yet again getting ahead of legislation? Because this is a whole other world that exists, and if there's no proactivity, no intentionality behind making sure that we have policies in place, then this is what will happen.
So I think this is a very innovative product, and it can be really beneficial to South Africans and to all consumers. However, at this stage, I am a little bit concerned about consumer protection specifically, because the fees that they charge, because there is fees that is being charged when there is default rates, is not being regulated. If there is returns, if there is consumer complaints, where is the protection for the consumer? So the ideal would not be to over-regulate this. I don't think too much regulation should come in play, because we should never curb innovation in South Africa. But there has to be a form of regulation. Because if BNPL products are being, exposed, and if consumers are abusing this can create more over-indebtedness, and we also know that South Africans are already struggling.
Leonie, is the concern that within this, this ecosystem of buy now, pay later, there's no integration between the service providers? So, for example, I can buy a phone from one entity and then get something else on buy now, pay later from another entity, and there's no way of knowing or even regulating that. So it is not impossible to think, well, you could actually have gotten things with credit up to 50,000 Rand.
Yeah.
No affordability has been conducted, but yet you are busy paying off these products.
And that is exactly the problem, is there's no data sharing. So what you buy from BNPL number 1, you can't compare to BNPL number 2, because you cannot compare the data sets. So even if you now go to any retailer and you get a retail card there, or you get a credit card, or you buy a house or a car, your other credit providers won't be able to take your debt obligations into consideration, because they cannot see it on the bureaus. And I think that's where the problem comes in, is there's no integration of information sharing. Now, obviously, this can create over-indebtedness. It can help the consumer up to a point where they can no longer afford these products. Because what we are seeing in the market is consumers are now stacking these products. They are using it for consumption purposes. They are buying nappies, they are buying food, they are even buying alcohol. And this is not necessarily sustainable for them. If they use these products for productive purposes, then that can be sustainable.
So what then happens if customers default on their payments? And because it falls outside the National Credit Act, does it mean that even if you can't keep up with payments, then you can't be blacklisted?
So that is the problem that we currently have. So when a consumer defaults, there's additional fees that comes into play, and that is not regulated. So all of these BNPL companies have got their different fees. It's not with any regulation, so they can basically charge what they want, and I'm sure that they are very consumer orientated. But there can be other players that can abuse this situation and can abuse the consumer. Also, there's no real way in which the consumer can go to an ombuds or to the NCR, because if you talk about real credit, there's a number of areas where there is a consumer protection channel for these consumers to go to. Where with BNPL, there's no dedicated organization that can assist you. So from our side, that is why we are calling on all of the BNPL players to collaborate with industry. Let's get to an industry code where we at least look at a consumer protection mechanism for these consumers. We do proper affordabilities, and we make sure that we can share data with other credit providers and institutions.
I'm curious to know, and I mean, I don't expect you to have the answer to this question per se, because you don't run these BNPL entities, but is part of the loophole in the legislation, does it have to do with how long the installment period is? So let's say if it's short term, where you get this phone, if you can pay for it in the next 3 months, it then creates room in as far as the National Credit Act. Is that something that comes into play here?
No, so the installment amount is not where the loophole sits. The loophole sits is that the BNPL provider actually gets his his income from the retailer, for instance. So say, for instance, they are integrated with a clothing shop. So the clothes is R5, and the BNPL provider would get R1 from every T-shirt that is sold. So they won't charge interest or an initiation fee or a service fee. The money that they make is because of the markup that is actually on the product. Then the other monies that they also make is from the default fees. And because there is a loophole, because they say it's zero interest, it feels, almost safe. It's for free, but it's never for free. Money is, received by BNPL players, and they make their money from the default rates. So that's where the loophole lies.
Should the retailers then not be part of this conversation? Because they, I imagine, are responding to this innovation, which is what it is, this technological innovation, to a problem that exists with customers. And this solution, many would think, is better than actually having to open an account with a store, because yes, people do still have accounts, but many people avoid having to open accounts.
So I think the retailers, are very, very much involved in the conversation when we are talking about consumer protection. So as an industry, we do discuss this on an ongoing basis. I think from the MFSA side, we just decided to really, take a stance. And I cannot speak for the retail industry, but I know that they are very much focused on consumer protection. And that's why, we are, as a credit industry, asking for everyone to come together and let's see how we can get to a sustainable solution. So I know the retailers are interested to see that consumers are being protected. They also don't want, consumers to be over-indebted, because they also have store cards. They also have, different products that they provide to consumers. So it influences everyone. However, the association is really taking a stance to say, let's not wait for the National Credit Act. Let's not wait for the COFI bill. In the meantime, while we are developing legislation, let's get together as an industry and see how we can get to a sustainable solution.
And again, given what one needs to sign up for one of these things, well, is it seen at all by those who are the BNPL players, the buy now pay later players? Is it seen at all by them as the industry trying to clamp down on what is innovation that is effectively eating your lunch? Because they've made it easier for consumers to access goods, which is at the heart of why people use money in the first place, is to buy products. It's without the red tape, which means that it's convenient for users. And sometimes, people end up blacklisted, rightfully, wrongly so, but now they don't have to deal with the drama of their credit score, their credit rating, which of course opens a whole other can of worms.
So I think BNPL is being positioned as harmless credit, but beneath the surface lies a growing debt trap. Consumers are increasingly overcommitting themselves with realizing into long-term consequences and without, proper regulatory intervention. This is almost a bubble that is waiting to burst, with devastating effects on households and the broader economy. So I think the BNPL players realize that we are looking at the sustainability of consumers and of the growth in South Africa, and that something needs to take place. So I know with every new business, with every new opportunity, we don't want to curb innovation, and we actually don't think BNPL is a bad product. But this is a bubble that is waiting to explode, because this is a growing market and it's not sustainable for the consumer at this stage. A lot of these BNPL players really do act with integrity. They try and do the right thing, but you can always get in a player that is malicious and that can really have bad repercussions for the consumer. So that is why I feel that we are not trying to take away anything from these players, but we want to look after the consumer, because in the end, we all have the same stakeholder. The credit industry, the BNPL players, our stakeholder is a healthy consumer.
Leonie, do you not think that it's just a matter of time before the stakeholders come into the fold of the National Credit Act? Because with consumers coming under increasing pressure as they are, sooner or later they too are going to have to deal with defaulters, people who are simply not paying back. And do you not think that that's going to drive them into a regulatory framework that also protects them and their interests?
Definitely, but I don't want the consumer to get there. So for me, it is very important that the consumer does not get into a dire situation to force companies into regulation. We want to protect the consumer. We want to make sure that the consumer is healthy in order for them to have access to other credit products to grow and develop their livelihood. So I don't want consumers to drive, public entities into, regulations. We want these companies to say, no, we want to drive the regulation and we want to focus on consumer protection. So I don't think it's the consumer's responsibility, and I don't want them, to feel the effect of these over-indebtedness.
So where to from now in as far as this conversation is concerned?
So I think from our side is BNPL can be seen as easy. It helps with cash flow. It's affordable. And we welcome providers who want to collaborate with the MFSA, but we cannot wait for the COFI bill and for the NCA because it's going to take too long, and we are seeing that there's going to be over-indebtedness. MFSA is also making a name change to CASA, the Credit Association of South Africa, and we are inviting buy now, pay laters to join our work stream in co-authoring the industry code while we advance the targeted NCA wording. We are already talking to a number of players, the NCT, the National Consumer Tribunal, the NCR, on how we can word this industry code while we are waiting for regulation. So just collaboration with MFSA and CASA to make sure that our consumers are protected.
Lastly, a message then to the consumers. That's if we are willing to wait long enough.
So the message to consumers is always wait for that second marshmallow. You don't have to have that instant gratification. Make sure that you can afford credit, any type of credit. So don't just think now, think of the future, and always budget and plan.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Leonie, for coming on to the show and being part of this conversation. I'm actually also keen to know, I wonder which products are most likely to have the buy now, pay later option. But I imagine it's probably for thinking. Do you have an answer to that question, Leonie?
No, but we can see definitely an increase on day-to-day stuff like food, baby stuff, medicine, alcohol, all of those day-to-day stuff. Yes.
Sure. Yeah, that again is incredibly worrying on another level too. Okay, Leonie, thank you so much. Leonie van Pletzel, CEO at Microfinance South Africa. So it also tells you, I thought it would have been more on consumables such as your gadgets, because those are things that can be quite expensive to buy immediately. If your phone is broken, it's broken, and you need a replacement now, you might not have the money. But if people are using these options to buy groceries and to buy basic supplies, then that reveals something else about just how much under strain consumers in our country are. Certainly puts a different spin on it. Okay, it's 11:30. Let's take the latest news headlines. On the other side of that is the G20 series with Lerato Tsebe.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi says a dedicated political killings task team will be launched in the province within the next 4 weeks. Former police sergeant and her 2 accomplices accused in the insurance-related killings have been denied bail by the Polokwane Magistrates Court in Limpopo. Magistrate Godfrey Nechwozi says there are no compelling reasons to grant bail and that the accused might interfere with witnesses. The High Court in Pretoria has started to hear the matter between suspended Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection Shadrack Sibiya and National Police Commissioner Fani Masemula. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
All right, let's continue with the show then. G20 series with Lerato Tseba, who's on the line, as we look at how South Africa is doing in as far as its hosting of the G20. Lerato, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to your listeners.
So has it been a slow or busy period? I'm not sure right now. I've seen we had the women's 20 last week, and the less I say about that, the better. And there've been a few other, sort of engagements, working groups. But generally, are we in the height of busy season or not quite?
Absolutely in the height of busy season. It is September. It is the beginning of the calendar year in the Western world. So essentially the UN is about to kick off its 2026 calendar year. And we are now, 80 or so days away from wrapping up our G20 presidency. There is a lot on our agenda from here on out as the Team South Africa presidency. So it's been a very busy week, and it will be a very busy, next few months, essentially.
Okay. Let's start off then for today looking at Parliament's Portfolio Committee on International Relations. They met to discuss the various engagement groups and expectations for the G20 summit. I guess this is really where the rubber hits the tarmac, because we have to start integrating all of this work that has been done so that we present one clear, cohesive position.
Yeah, Cathy, this was a very interesting meeting. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on IR had a meeting with the Southern African Liaison Office. It was yesterday morning. It was a colloquium on the people's expectations of South Africa's G20 presidency. It was essentially a conversation that the Portfolio Committee and SAILO were having with non-state actors. So essentially what transpired is the heads of the various engagement groups, for example, the C20, T20, W20, B20 and Y20, all came out and just sort of relayed and conveyed what they've worked on, how far they are in their work plan, and also what are their own expectations and what do they want to see moving forward in terms of the work that each engagement group has done. We had some very interesting conversations during the meeting. So, for example, the L20, which was led by Matthew Parks from COSATU, he was talking a lot about the reform of the international financial architecture and the fact that Labour essentially wants the Labour 20 on other G20 workstream agendas going forward. and that they're essentially the part of what they want to see on those work streams is gender justice, global labor protections, trade, and also the AFCFTA. Now, mind you, Mr. Parks is saying that fully well cognizant of the fact that the United States is taking over potentially from us as G20 presidency holder. But they have made it very clear that this quality and kind of engagement groups that are sort of leaning into social welfare and, or rather the global common goods is what they like to call them, they will not be taking these kinds of issues up. A lot of the conversations that came in after each engagement group had done their presentation was just various state actors and non-state actors rather. I mean, we had people from disability forums, we had people from indigenous rights group, also just conveying their frustrations, Cathy, about how they felt they weren't included or were a bit sidelined from various fora that are part of the G20, and that they've been trying to get their agenda in and trying to get somebody to really just listen to them. But what I really took away from the meeting, Cathy, was it was very interesting to note how South Africans have really taken to this meeting and this meeting's agenda and this meeting's theme. And by this meeting, I'm talking about us hosting the G20. I wasn't expecting quite a multitude, if I may say, of voices that were responding to this conversation, but it was very interesting to see that people actually do very much want to be proactively involved in it. So that is what happened yesterday.
And I think that that's so important, Lerato, also because the G20 is seen as a platform for governments and quite elitist by nature, right? So when you have organizations that and people that talk about we've had contributions to make, but we're struggling to find any table to sit on where these can be made, that does help to feed into perceptions of what then this is truly about. Is it just about the guys at the top making decisions, announcing those decisions, or is it really a process that seeks to take all of society with it?
Exactly, Cathy. That's exactly what I was thinking as well. They feel, I think, for me, what the message I was taking from what they were saying is that this is as good a time as ever to take our message to the international community. And they very much want to to capitalize on this opportunity. And I think that, going forward, they want to really dig into networks and also sustain the work that we've done over the past year. Again, you must remember that we're still part of the troika essentially next year as well. So I hope that a lot of those voices were heard, and they were indeed speaking to the right people with various heads of different political organizations and parliament were part of that meeting yesterday. So I hope that they did hear them.
Let's move on then to the Deputy Minister of International Relations, Alvin Burtis. He's in Cairo. That's in Egypt, and this is for the G20. I love how you phrase it here. On the occasion of the third G20 Food Security Task Force meeting. And you see why I'm always taking the mickey out of you for being a diplomat. How's his meeting going, Lerato?
So he's in Egypt. This is part and parcel of our sort of commitment as South Africa to include, the remainder of our African counterparts, who are, I mean, as not just as AU member states, but part of being AU member states and including them in our G20 agenda. So we're sort of essentially, I suppose, living up to our word of being serious about, transcontinental inclusivity. So we are hosting one meeting in Cairo. There'll be another task force meeting that will be held in Nigeria. He was discussing in Cairo, he met with his counterparts, and he's talking about the fact that South Africa has, commissioned a study essentially to look at the structural drivers of food insecurity in Africa and just globally right now. This meeting comes after the US Secretary General Antonio Guterres had a call to action during the UN Food Systems Summit Stocktake, which recently took place in Addis Ababa just last month. and also just drawing on other data and facts from the state of food security in the world. Essentially, all three of these meetings are painting a very alarming picture regarding the levels of food insecurity globally, with specifically the global south, having some of the highest numbers of lack of access to food, and sort of lamenting on the fact that all the food insecurity is compounded by very many complex factors and drivers, but mostly reliant on the fact that there's mass inflation, climate shocks, and other structural issues. I found it very interesting that the Deputy Minister and that South Africa decided to have Egypt host this meeting. Cairo, Egypt, actually is one of the most populous states in Africa, and they actually run a food scheme program for the poorer people in Cairo, where they do supply them with bread or subsidized bread on behalf of the state, for example. You must remember Cairo is a very densely populated city, and Egypt is a very highly populated country itself. I believe a population well over 200 million. So I thought that they found a very interesting place to go and lament on these issues. GM was essentially lamenting on the fact that they're going to take this message of food insecurity in the global south to the UN G80 coming up later on this month in New York. And that they have also commissioned 3 key studies as South Africa to look into the structural drivers and what it is that they can do to alleviate them and create evidence-based policies and informed decision-making to be able to make a difference to address this issue.
Okay. The president making a historic G20 related announcement, and this is with regard to wealth inequality and how to tackle that.
Yes, I think the president's really trying to put his hallmark stamp on this meeting that we're hosting. President Ramaphosa has launched an extraordinary committee of independent experts that is going to be chaired by Nobel Prize winning economist Professor Joseph Stiglitz and 6 other colleagues. They are going to be looking into issues of what is driving an increased inequality in the world. These 6 and rather 7 experts are charged with analyzing the current landscape of global inequality. What are the causes of poverty? Not that we really need a big report to tell us that. The impacts on widening inequality, and how can we create transformative solutions. You must remember that the world's richest 1% have now increased their wealth by more than $33 trillion since 2015. And they are going to be looking at how essentially we can offer alternative solutions to this. Very much comprised in the body of experts, we've got a Brazilian Dr. Adriana Abendier. She's a social scientist. She was a former advisor on international relations to President Lula da Silva. You've got UN AIDS head, Ms. Winnie Banyima, and you've got our own Professor Imran Valodia. Sorry.
Lerato, you took the words out of my mouth. I thought, do we really need a task team to help us know the answers to these questions? Look, I mean, I remember, which year didn't the Nelson Mandela Foundation also host one of its lectures with inequality at the heart of it in South Africa, and how to address inequality? This must have been about 5 or 6 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so, but, I guess it should all be welcomed. Lerato, what's next on the agenda? Very briefly, please.
Yes, we've got a big week up ahead. So we'll start in Mpumalanga Tourism Working Group on the 9th and 10th. Tourism Ministerial meeting on the 11th. You've got Johannesburg is finally hosting the Urban 20 from the 12th to the 14th. If you recall, earlier in the year, the Pretoria City of Tshwane was hosting the same meeting. And you've got a very big 3rd Global Partnership meeting for financial inclusion in Fancourt, George, between the 11th and 12th of September.
All right. Busy. It seems like that's all it's going to be for you as we continue to build towards that leadership summit coming up in November. Always a pleasure, Lerato.
Thank you so much, Cathy, and have a wonderful day.
That's where we wrap up the G20 series for today. On that note, up next is the book reading. And yeah, the show will be back with you again tomorrow between 9 and midday.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer,
Think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
When Avukile was diagnosed with blood cancer, his only hope was a stem cell transplant from a matching donor. Thankfully, a perfect match was found, and Avukile received the transplant that saved his life. But thousands of patients in South Africa are still waiting to find their match. Together, we can give more patients like Avukile a second chance at life. Visit dkmsafrica.org.
This is an SABC-supported initiative.
We all know a Mesara, that parent who randomly calls to check up on you.
Mtanam, when are you visiting?
She knows that every call or text goes towards her free funeral cover. She'll keep calling until she spends at least 120 Rand a month.
Mara, why haven't you accepted my friend request? Huh?
For every convo or scroll, you get 10,000 Rand free funeral cover. Recharge with 120 Rand every month to get covered. No paperwork, debit orders, or medicals. Recharge on the VodaPay app or dial *123#. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. The University of KwaZulu-Natal will take on the University of Zululand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 5th of September, 2025. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SFM's award-winning drama department presents another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Motswenyane. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised.
Agriculture for development. I have traveled all over the world and have not seen one country where development did not start on the land. For development to be sustainable, it must begin on the land. And where land is properly and fully utilized, people won't go hungry. It is a sin before God for people to have land and still starve. We've got to address the issue of the lack of productivity of our land. It is deeply disappointing today to learn that of the land that has been transferred back to black farmers, over 50% of the farms have failed, and yet we have been clamoring for more and more land. When we get it, we lack the capacity, skills, or the motivation to use it productively. My greatest concern, however, is with young people. They don't seem to see the importance of agriculture anymore. It appears that when you are educated, you must not have anything to do with the soil, yet agricultural science is as crucially important as is not different from all other sciences. In Winterveld, where I live, for instance, I see people abandoning the land and going to live in the informal settlements. I would have been pleased if the schools in the area were providing agricultural science as a course in their curriculum. But none of the local schools here are providing any studies in agriculture. They are looking at other things that are not related to the way of life of the people here. To solve some of the problems facing our rural communities requires leaderships from our schools. Our schools need to start producing leaders with competence to lead us in a new direction, away from poverty and dependency. Black South Africans must not forever remain a nation of consumers without producers. One old man who has since passed away used to say to me, "You know, I'm concerned because when our children go to school, they've got their heads and their hands, but when they come back, they only have their heads and their hands have been chopped off." They don't want to work and dirty their hands anymore. This is indeed a sad indictment of our education system that fails to inculcate the essential spirit of industriousness among our youth. The Transkei, for example, has enormous potential for agriculture, and it is a great pity that much of what was known and done in the past has been abandoned. In the Kalanga districts some 50 years ago when I was working there, one of the most outstanding farmers was Mr. L. Kashimba, who had left teaching for agriculture and became the best farmer in the Transkei. At the time, agricultural competitions were held to identify the best local farmer. There were local agricultural shows where the locals would bring their products to be judged, their cattle, their crops, their sheep, their goats, and from this show would go on to the next round at the district show. The winners at the district show would then proceed to a central show in Umtata. There were shows and competitions for excellence, and they are now no longer there. If we are no longer competing for excellence, how do we make progress? Progress is actually achieved when we strive for the best. I therefore think that we have to go back to the drawing board and look for the Kashimbas of today and promote them. Get them to do the work, inspire other people to do the same so that there is progress. Nobody's going to bring any solutions to us. We must generate them ourselves. I really wish I was a young man. I would go there and work. I can remember as a social work student in Ngoga in 1949 how we started night schools and other activities there to help the people. Subsequently, there was a big dairy started, which has since collapsed. The Department of Agriculture started an irrigation scheme in Ngoga, which is now no longer operational. With the Tsumo River still flowing, there is a chance for irrigation farming in Ngoga. The river used to support large herds of dairy cattle, and those dairy cattle are no longer there. People should be planting lucerne there and supplying other areas. What is needed is that fire in the heart which makes things happen. You've got to have that fire in the heart, that ambition to start and make things work for the benefit of society. One of the most fascinating things for me is to read old literature on how over 100 years ago people saw their future and how they strive to overcome the difficulties that face them. I look at the story of the slaves in America, how they emerged from slavery, how Booker T. Washington led the former slaves to initiate educational projects for their development. He told them that one of the important things that they had to do was to create and support an institution for agriculture. That is how, finally, Tuskegee University came into being, and it was out of that university that the peanut butter that we all know today came. It is an invention from a black university which clearly demonstrates that the former slaves, given the training and opportunity, also had the capability to do something even better than what their former masters had accomplished. Beyond apartheid and segregation, our former rulers have always seen a potential black thread, the donker gevaar. Even today in our country, under a new constitution, we still have people that see us as a threat. They will consequently try to pull all sorts of barriers and obstructions on the road to ensure that we can move forward as slowly as possible. If we do not take it upon ourselves to move briskly ahead at our own pace, we are going to be delayed and our detractors will have succeeded. To counteract any delayed tactics that may hinder our progress requires that the mindset of the past that causes stagnation or lack of innovation be gotten rid of. We have to innovate. We need to bring new ideas to the fore. Only when we do that are we going to be the masters of our own destiny that we are meant to be. I do strongly believe in innovation. My experience of working through rigid government structures has, however, shown this to restrict innovation and leave limited space to maneuver. It is when we move into more flexible grassroots structures and start people-driven initiatives that we begin to move faster. Anything that is imposed on the people, no matter how good, at the end of the day, only survives because of the buy-in that has to be worked at. Initiatives that are started by the people themselves are more likely to succeed and be protected under all circumstances. Presently, lack of innovation and people-driven projects are largely responsible for the stagnation and lack of progress in our country's economy, especially on the agricultural side. This is why I feel we need to have a foundation that can fund and help to drive agricultural development projects. Such development, as we have seen in Winterveld, can be replicated throughout the whole nation. It needs a driver to push it. We all need to focus beyond our immediate needs and look at the broader needs of our nation today. This is important if we are to fully and meaningfully respond to the challenge of poverty. Currently, although all the top officials of our government are talking about poverty and its alleviation, how this problem should be effectively reduced or substantially minimized is where things seem to get stuck. What hurts me most is to observe how far behind we still are economically when compared to other races in our country and the level of poverty that is currently facing us. The problem is not going to be solved for us. We've got to solve it ourselves. Solutions will not come like manna from heaven. They must come directly from us. That's what I believe. We need to instill as strongly as possible that spirit of self-reliance into our people, which Booker T. Washington tried to propagate among Black Americans when he encouraged them to dip their bucket where they are, rather than want to dip it somewhere else. This is because opportunities do exist everywhere we are. Our responsibility is to make use of those opportunities, explore what they are, and use them to our own advantage. We should not expect neither the government nor anybody else from far away to come and solve problems for us while we sit down and do nothing. I have always been conscious and mindful of the need for people to solve their own problems in order to go forward.
That was another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Mohlahlana. The book is available online on www.kmmr.co.za, KMMR Publishers, and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursday on The Talking Point. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Samson Kumalo. Technical production, Wiseman Manele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuruma.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Here, there, and everywhere.